So yeah, Jimmy is also here around. Okay, he's also with us. So first we'll discuss these items, then we'll go through your individual projects. If anyone wants to ask any doubts or anything regarding BOQ or the structure, anything. If not, then yeah, we'll uh, cover this one. Okay. So first we have to see that what major items are considered when we are thinking about the superstructure. So again, as you all know, the structure are of two kinds. One would be the frame and another being load bearing. Accordingly, the material are also available, which are brick or any modular construction, which I mean modular in the sense where you use a particular module multiple times to create a structure. So bricks not necessarily of burnt clay, but also we have flash bricks, autoclaved aerated bricks, cement blocks. All those items are considered in a module, which we use in multiple multiplication. Okay. Second being stone. Okay, so natural stone, which we might use for construction. Again, there are various types of stones, their sizes, their finishes, etc. Third being RCC. So in RCC, we might have just RCC frames structure and then infill brick walls or some other walls, or the whole structure itself would be of RCC. Okay. And the fourth one being steel. Okay. So steel, again, the steel construction you all might know, you might have heard in example, you are also learning it in TOS, all the tensile members, okay, being constructed in steel. So all these four items will divide and will because one or the other will be there in your tech studio structure, and you will be creating another list of super structure items in your abstract and measurement sheets. Okay. Okay, so let's start. Acha, anytime if anyone has any questions or anything, do interrupt me, not an issue. Okay, I won't be able to see chats since I'm sharing the screen. So they can stop me and ask me any questions if they want. Okay, so let's start. Okay, so first one being a brick wall. Okay, so now we all know how we construct brick wall with mortar, and there are different thicknesses. Again, brick, don't consider this brick as burnt clay bricks. It can be any modular bricks. Whatever you use, you have to mention it. Okay, that either you're using mud bricks, either you're using burnt clay bricks, or what we say, autoclaved aerated blocks or flash blocks. Whatever it is, we have to mention that specifically. Okay. So again, there are two types how we consider a brick in uh, BOQ. First one being cubic meter. Okay. So whenever we consider a half brick wall, that is always measured in square meters. Okay, and whenever if the brick wall's thickness increases than half brick, then we consider it in cubic meter. Okay, so now what do I have to keep in mind when we are writing specification for a brick wall? Okay, so first of all, so yeah, what kind of brick we are using? So providing burnt brick, clay brick work. In then we have to mention, as you all know, cement mortar, which is going to be used between them. It might be 1:4, it might be 1:6. So we have to mention that. So providing brickwork in cement mortar 1:6. So one part of cement, six part of coarse sand in walls, and then where we are using this, that we have to mention. So it might be for walls, it might be for chambers, for drains, for vaults, for jali, wherever, whatever it is, you have to mention it, what you are using, how you are using, and where you are using. And then in thickness, which you have to specify. You don't write, don't just copy this as is. You have to mention key what size of brick wall you're using: 230 thick, 450 460 thick, 300 thick, at all depths, places and positions, including. Now, what you all will be including? So raking out joints. Do you all know what the raking out joints is? Yes, someone? Yes, no.
No idea. We don't know.
Okay, raking out joints. So whenever we are having a junction, okay, where T junction, L junction, or wherever it is, so we have to leave the bricks in a particular manner so that the other wall does not have vertical joints in it. Okay. Uh, so basically, when we are laying the bricks, we can't just directly go till एक ही line चालू किया and we can't go till the full height. Okay, we have to stop it somewhere. We have to connect other walls to it. Okay, and then that's how the junction which we have to strengthen without the vertical joints, that has to be taken care of perfectly. So that is raking out joints. So that raking out joints, then curing. Again, we are using mortar in it. So we require it to cure for some time. Okay, otherwise that imbalancement in the wall can also create cracks. Later, when you paint, it won't be sudden. Okay, when we do the brickwork, when it's completed, when we paint, plaster it, paint it, and then on the plaster, we'll see sometimes the cracks being formed due to the heat which might happen in hydration process of that mortar. Okay, so that has to be taken care of. Acha. Then also while creating brickwork, sometimes we need scaffolding on the outer side. If it is a load bearing wall, then yeah, we'll require a platform or something to support it and to work with it. So that scaffolding cost also we will consider it in this. Okay. All in all, providing brickwork in cement mortar 1:6, in walls, chambers, drains, etc. in thickness, considering 230 or 300 or whatever it is at all depths, places, and positions, including raking out joints, curing, scaffolding, etc. complete, excluding plaster and painting. Because plaster and painting, these two components, we are taking it separately. We are considering them separately. So as of now, we won't be considering that in this item. Okay. And the whole thing will be calculated in cubic meter. Okay. So the volume of it, of the whole wall, as many walls as you might have in your structure. Okay. So I hope it's clear to everyone. If not, do interrupt me and do ask me how to calculate it. Because if it's not clear, then I'll sketch it probably for you so that you will understand it better. Okay.
So Neeraj, if it's like a half brick thick wall that's 150, then we only consider length into breadth of the wall and not the width.
Yeah, only length and not the length and the breadth and not the depth. Okay,
Oh,
that's the generally standard we follow. So when we say 150 wall, that also includes plaster. So if we just consider a burnt brick half brick wall thickness, it is 115. I hope you all know. Okay. So this is generally 4-inch thick wall or 115 thick wall. 150 becomes 6-inch thick wall. That is again in cubic meter. Only 4-inch thick wall or 115 thick wall is considered in square meter. Now, generally, this wall is not load bearing or not even external. Okay. Generally, it is used for partition. And nowadays, when we are creating partition, we use other materials which are faster to erect and easier to finish and better in finish, right? So, but still, if we consider its specification, so providing brickwork in cement mortar 1:4 in partition walls, chambers, etc. of so and so, and that would be considered in square meter. Okay. Again, other specification will remain same as raking out joints, curing, scaffolding if required. Okay. Again, without plaster and painting, because that again will consider in finishes. Okay. So rest all the material, all the walls will be considered in cubic meters. Just this 115 half brick thick wall will be considered in square meters. Is it clear to everyone?
So Neeraj, if we
Yeah.
have both these walls, like we have a 230 wall for the exterior and one
1.15 for the interior walls.
Ah,
So we will have to mention it separately in the
separate.
BOQ and the measurement sheet, right?
Correct, correct, correct. So in abstract sheet, you will mention it separately, and measurement में तो अलग आएगा ही because of the differentiation in thickness. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's your thing. Okay. So this is brick wall. Now we'll consider a stone wall. Many people are using stone wall, may it be for infill, be used as infill material, or maybe load bearing itself, the whole wall. Okay. So now when we are considering stone wall, I hope you all remember the type of masonry which we do with the stone. Okay. It might be random rubble masonry, which is generally done for unfinished compound walls and etc. Then there is coarse rubble masonry, and then there is ashlar masonry. Okay, in which you properly dress all the stone, use all the stone joinery, and then construct. Okay, so here again, specification, we will require you to find all these aspects, which being what kind of stone you are using will depend on your site, will depend on your availability, what kind of stone you are going to use. Then what size you are going to use it as. Okay, if it is a random rubble masonry, then it won't matter. But if it's ashlar masonry or some particular sized blocks, if you are going to use, then you have to mention that as well. Okay. Then comes the dressing. Now dressing means how the finish of it is going to be look like because that again requires intensive labor on designing or creating the front surface, how it is going to look. We have chisels, we have hammer, and with all those equipments, we dress all the stones perfectly in a particular block. Okay, then how you're going to lay it, then again curing if required for it, and then protection if required. Okay, so all these elements should come in your specification when you're specifying stone method. Okay, so if we have to write a specification for stone wall, what we'll do, we'll mention providing and laying 300 thick stonework. Now, this stonework may be ashlar masonry or random rubble masonry or whatever, what for whatever purpose you are going to construct it. May it be compound wall, may it be the structural wall, may it be feature wall. That also can happen in stone. Okay, in superstructure with cement mortar 1:6. Okay, including pointing with cement mortar. Now, what is pointing? Do you all know?
Yeah, it is like treatment done to the end of the brick, like at the corner of the brick.
Yeah, it may be done for bricks, it may be done for stone, any block or
Yeah, like a
modular
masonry
mason.
block.
Yeah, for whatever. So because when we are keeping an exposed, generally in brick construction in conventional method, what we do, we generally cover it up with plaster and everything. So we don't need to do pointing. But when we are constructing, for example, stone masonry, we generally keep it exposed. In brick also, when we keep the exposed brick walls, then we have to mention this point of mentioning pointing with cement mortar or whatever it is. Okay. So basically, what we are doing is we are securing the joints, because joints are the most prone for water leakages and everything. So not to keeping them exposed, we generally use cement mortar again to cover it up. So sometimes it is also done with using some color pigments. Here, what I have mentioned is that we use stone dust. So basically the finish which it gives, it has stone dust. So it matches with our regular stone construction. Okay. So it can be anything. Okay, so it can be regular cement mortar, it can use stone dust, it can use color pigment in white cement to give a particular color. It depends on the design. Okay, so yeah, so including pointing with cement mortar 1:2, dressing as per the design, curing complete. Okay, now this is also considered in cubic meters. Okay, you have to keep in mind. So brick masonry, stone masonry is also considered in cubic meters. You have to find volume. Okay. Okay. So yeah.
Neeraj, I had a doubt.
Yeah, sure.
Like the cement mortar that we use. So for that, do we give a completely different specification, or does that have to come under each kind of, because even that is the part of the volume, right?
Yeah. So it will be included in stone wall masonry. See, we are not giving
Okay.
volume just for the stone.
Yeah, yeah.
वॉल्यूम ऑफ स्टोन कितना पत्थर लगेगा साइड पे और वो अलग हो गया.
Huh.
This is for costing purposes, for estimating purpose. So here we are including material being stone, cement, water, sand, everything. Then laying of it. So basically labor also. Okay. So
Yeah.
this is a whole item which we are giving them.
Okay.
So for that the contractor will give you cost. कि अच्छा ये पूरा पत्थर लाना भी है, उसमें बाद में मिक्सिंग भी करना है सीमेंट मोटर, फिर वो प्रॉपर ले करना है, उसको डिजाइन देना है. ऑल ऑफ दिस इंक्लूडेड ही विल गिव यू अ कॉस्ट कि अच्छा 10 दिन में काम होगा, इतने लेबर लगेंगे, इतना मटेरियल लगेगा, एंड दिस इज द होल कॉस्ट.
Okay.
Okay, so that's why for everything we mention, for every particular thing, plaster we are keeping it separate because that is another item which may or may not be applied to all the walls. So plaster, paint, tile, cladding, dado, all those things we keep it aside and we calculate it separately. But here cement mortar we have to give it for every item because it is a part of that wall. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the part of wall. So now again, it's your work is not just done here after calculating the length and breadth and depth with the volume. Okay, there are also some deductions which you have to do. Okay, which would be for doors, windows, arch, skylight, जो भी opening, whatever opening you provide, those items would be deducted. Okay, so when you are writing, just a second. Screen. Okay, so you can see Excel file, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So here, if I am writing for north side, so consider this as a measurement sheet. Okay. So if I am writing here north side wall or maybe living room wall, whatever it is, which is easier for you to refer with the drawing. Okay. Now you have here length, you have breadth, you have depth. Okay. Here you have total volume. Okay. Yeah, rate, remark. This all will come as per what you have received for the measurement sheet. Okay. So north side wall, I'll write. Okay, it's 3 meter high. Sorry, of let's say 6 meter long. Uh, 3 meter high and depth being 0.3 300 thick wall hai. Okay. So now I will calculate it, whatever the volume comes. Okay. Okay. So you will mention all the types of walls which all the walls you will mention with all the dimensions. You will get some final volume. Okay. Then you have to reduce all the doors and windows. So you have to write less less. Okay. Here you will also have. Sorry. Column for how many numbers it might have. So if let's say you have this wall which is repeating in multiple times, so you don't have to write it again and again one below the other. You can just write two types of this wall and you will have direct calculation. I hope everyone is proficient with Excel as well. Okay, when it comes to the BOQ sheet. Okay, then you have to less when because there you are not using the material. So here I'll write less main door. Here I write internal doors. Okay, so I have to reduce it. So I let's say main door is one number. Internal doors I have 4 internal doors. I'll reduce it. Then length again. Length would be 0.7. 0.9 1.2 let's say चलो 1.2 मीटर का मेन डोर Then I have to reduce 0.9 in all internal doors. Breadth being, let's say I'll write it, write height here. So it would be 2.1, 2.1. And thickness, again, we are reducing the whole mass of the thickness of wall. So I'll reduce 0.3, 0.3. Okay, here I'll write minus 1. Because I am reducing this mass, there is no wall here. Okay, so I'll reduce it. So when I multiply it here, I'll automatically get the value which I have to reduce. So when I add all this in my final total, this negative value will automatically get reduced. So 10 minus whatever it is, minus around 3. So the total volume which I'll get would be 7.7. Did everyone get it? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Sure. So this is how you will calculate all the walls and how they reducing all the openings and everything everywhere. Even see, it's a part of wall which also goes to create a plinth. Okay, near the stub columns. So that also will be calculated. So that also in substructure you have to keep in mind and add it in your substructure ka portion. Okay. So this is how you will be calculating wall. Then comes RCC. So many of you might have lifts or staircases, or maybe the whole frame structure being constructed out of RCC. Okay, so that also you have to calculate somehow, which you partially did for foundation. Okay, I remember that for the stub columns and all. So it's similar, but again here all elements you have to keep in mind. Columns and shear walls, so all the vertical members, beams, slabs, staircases or lift shafts, and precast elements. Okay, if there are any. Now, precast will be calculated a bit differently, not as per what we do for RCC, but rest of the elements will be considered in RCC. Now, we'll see how to do it. Again, this you all know. Okay. So again here, what all elements we have to mention. So first of all, we have to mention the strength or the grade of concrete. Okay. Which the process is same for specification. So which type of concrete which you are going to use, how you are going to use, and how the finish is going to be. Okay. So providing and laying in position specified grade of reinforced cement concrete. So foundation, it will be different. For column beams, it would be different. For pardi wall, which are not a structural member, for that it might be something different. For a parapet wall or something, if we are constructing, it would be different. Okay, if required. Otherwise, okay, so that you have to keep in mind. So providing and laying in position M20 grade of reinforced cement concrete, including required centering, shuttering, finishing as specified. Okay, finishing, if you have any particular smooth finish or leathered finish or something, if there is a requirement of it, then you mention it. Otherwise, it's fine. Now, again, keep in mind, guys, centering and shuttering, sometimes it is included in the what we say in the RCC itself, or many of the times it is not included. Because if you consider a type of slab, now let's say if we are going to use some advanced slab of kind of, let's say, waffle slab or something, then the molds are different. Centering methods might differ. Okay, so that cost we don't want to be applied to the columns as well. Column will require some kind of a different framework. Okay, some kind of different foam work or shuttering. Okay, so generally we keep it separate. We don't include it in this, but for this exercise we can. Okay, but generally that is also separate. The cost for those also we calculate it separately. For slabs separately, for beams separately, everything like that. Okay, so yeah. So then we have to mention what kind of what grade of concrete we require. Okay, so let's say if we are considering M20, then 1:1.5:3. I hope you all remember this design mixes. Okay, so let's say it's 1:1.5:3. So 1 cement, 1.5 coarse sand, and 3 being graded stone aggregates. Now again, here they have mentioned a bit specified, because even types of sand which we might get, that also has different grading depending on its purity, depending on its gradation, depending on its smoothness. Okay, so that they have mentioned it, but it's okay if you don't mention it as of now. Okay, because that is also important when we are in filling up government tender forms. Then all these things also are kept in mind and tested when they are used on site. So we also have to keep that in mind, but as of now, it's okay for your assignment. So yeah, and if it is M15, then 1:2:4. Same way, you have to consider cement, sand, and aggregates. Okay. So this specification you will apply it, and then when you are calculating in measurement sheet, this specification will come in abstract sheet or a BOQ sheet, which we call it as. Okay. So in measurement sheet, then you will mention all the columns. Ki, okay, when if I am writing it in Excel, if this is my measurement sheet, I'll write it. Ki, considering all columns, then I'll write my column numbers. This is again, this as much detailed you make, it would be better for you to correct or to recheck it. Okay, because even one column changes or one item changes, you have to correct all the VOQ sheets and measurements. So it's better if you make it neat and clean and clear, so that you can understand all the items. Okay, so here you can write okay, C1, C2, yeah, jo bhi columns are that. For that, if the column size is same, then you can write directly okay, 3 types of C1 and C2 columns, jo bhi size hai, 0.5, 0.5 and 3 meters. Okay, and then the total volume. Then you will have some other type of column which will have some different size. Then you will have beams, then you will have slabs. All the volumes you will calculate, and it will give you volume for RCC. Okay, the cement concrete volume which you want to have. Okay, after that, acha, again here, keep that in mind. I have written excluding the cost of reinforcement. Okay, because that is calculated separately. It is very costly. Even if the volume is less, still the cost of it is major thing when we are calculating BOQ. Okay, which is steel reinforcement. So steel reinforcement, when we are calculating it, we of course it would be pretty difficult to calculate all the bars which are there in the whole structure. Okay, because here we also include stirrups, we also consider binders, we also consider main reinforcement. All of it is being considered here. So to calculate the volume by calculating bars, it would be pretty difficult and messy for us to work with. So what we consider is, generally we consider 5% of total RCC volume. Okay, so whatever we calculate for RCC here, as per this, we calculate all the beam sizes, column sizes, slabs, shear walls or lift shaft walls, foundation, everything. We'll consider 5% of that volume to be of steel reinforcement. Is it clear to everyone? You have to mention it. So guys, please keep this in mind. Okay. If you are not clear, do ask me, not an issue. Okay, so we consider 5% of total RCC volume as steel reinforcement or steel bars, which we are going to use. Now, I hope you all know we generally see there are 3 types of steel bars available in market. Okay, first one being mild steel or medium tensile steel bars. Okay, these are generally not used for the reinforcement in RCC. Okay, they might be used as a supportive member, but not as the main reinforcement. Okay, then there comes the cold twisted bars. Okay, but now recently we all get recently, but usko bhi time ho gaya, but we generally get TMT bars. You must have heard it. every one of you, that generally when in construction they use the term the TMT bars, TMT reinforcement bars. So they are thermomechanically treated bars. Even the torsion on the bar or the threads which are there, which use threads means threading, the uneven surface for friction which they have created, the threading is also specifically designed, and the bars are treated thermomechanically to get the required strength of it. So I hope you all remember, while calculating all numericals for toss, we generally use the term FE415, FE500, and consider its strength or its data from steel table to solve the sums. So basically, we are focusing on its the strength when we are saying the gradation of it. When we are saying FE415, FE500, 550. So we have to write providing steel reinforcement of FE500, FE415 for RCC work, including strengthening, cutting, bending, placing in position, and binding all complete. Okay. So this again will be a new abstract item in your BOQ sheet, and then you will you will be showing it in measurement sheet. So keep this in mind. The processes which are being included for it, which are strengthening. Generally, when you see bars coming on site, they are bent. Okay, they are in a loop due to its length. When we are for convenience of transportation. Okay, so they are bent, then they are straightened, then they are cut into the according to the sizes which we might require. They are bent wherever the development we have left, we bent it, or we weave it in the beam reinforcement or slab reinforcement to transfer the load. Then we have to place it exactly in position and bind it everything with stirrups and binding wires. You might have seen small wires which they tie everything with, all the junctions, all the stirrups to keep them in place. They tie it with the binding wires. All those things, including the labor work, will create this steel reinforcement item. Okay, is that clear? Does anyone have any doubt, anything regarding this RCC? Any items they might have in their project which they think they need specification for? We can develop it right here.
Neeraj, I had two things.
Yeah.
One that's for the reinforcements. In the measurement sheet, we directly take 5% of RCC volume as the measurement, right?
Yes, yes, you do it directly.
And second thing, that are we going to discuss how to calculate the volume for waffle slab?
Yeah, that is also easy. Yeah, we can, not particularly right now, but yeah, if you want to, we can discuss it. You can tell me like, okay, chalo, consider a waffle slab. Okay. If, let's say, this is your waffle slab. Okay. If I consider a section, shall consider a section. Okay. Okay. You have ribs over here. Okay. Now, basically, you just have to calculate the volume. Okay. So what you're going to do is, you tell me, chalo, acha, what do you think we should do to calculate the volume of RCC here?
Probably we can take the entire depth till the rib and then subtract these small
Yeah,
cuboids which should be
yeah,
cutting.
that is one way. But again, to consider a 3D trapezoid and to calculate its volume, okay, what you can do is you can, yeah, as you said, you will consider the whole depth. Let's say it's 400 and and this is 10,000 mm. Okay, you will calculate the whole volume by 10,000 by 10,000, and you will calculate volume for one block, and you will deduct. You can count the numbers, how many waffles you have or how many voids you have, right?
Yes.
And you
Yes.
can reduce it. It's done. It's that simple. Just you should know all the areas for the geometric shapes. If you have a fancy shape or some different shapes. then you
Yes.
can, that just you have to consider. Otherwise, it's all simple. Okay.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Neeraj, what if we have a tapering portal frame?
Portal frame. Okay. So if it's tapered along one axis and if it's simple, like it's only tapered on the inside, let's say, okay. If this cross section, if I take, you have RCC portal frames.
Yes.
Okay. So what you can do is you can calculate if in section, whatever the shape it might have, you calculate area for that and you can consider the whole length and multiply with it. You will get a volume. I hope
So
you
the
get-
two sides we consider with the trapezoidal area, and then the upper we calculate it differently, the top of it.
Yeah, that if the cross section runs along is the same throughout the three sides, okay, then you can directly calculate the center line of it and multiply with it. Let's say if this cross section area is coming about 0.02 meters square into, I'll calculate length. This is going till 8 meters, this is 15 meters, this is again 8 meters. So I'll multiply that and I'll get a volume. You get it?
Okay, thank you.
And if someone has pretty complicated frame or something, so they can also use new softwares which you might have you might be using Revit, you might be using SketchUp, right? So there also if you have a proper clean block, you can directly derive the volume for it. I hope some of you might know it. Okay. If it's a pretty complex shape, then you can directly derive your what you say volume from those softwares as well. If it's a complex portal frame or something, that can also happen. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah. So do calculate it on your own. Let's see. See, thoda plus minus hoga. We'll see. We will be able to know. But again, you don't have to write everything. You can just measure for one portal frame and then write ki I have four these kind of four portal frames. So 4 into the same volume, and you can directly get the volume for all the portal frames. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Neeraj, the reinforced one, then do we add in the end with the columns ka volume also?
No need to add. No? We are separating all the items. We are calculating it. So generally, when you are calculating what we say steel reinforcement, the column or RCC ka volume will stay as is what you have calculated. And this would be add-on. You will write it separately. That steel reinforcement for the same volume of RCC would be this much. Now, if you consider the whole volume, okay, 100% ka 5% in terms of volume, it's too less. Okay, so when we are calculating, considering let's say 95% of concrete, okay, usme it won't matter this much quantity. I hope you're getting it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can write it separately, steel reinforcement. So first you calculate all the RCC volume and then steel reinforcement 5% of what you have calculated. That's it. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So this is regarding RCC. Now the material comes with steel. Okay. So now this also some of you might be having. See again, no one is going to have a complete building made out of RCC or complete building made out of stone or wood or steel. There might be some part which are used with steel, some part which are being constructed with timber, and it would be hybrid structure to some extent. Okay. Now, these members which I'm mentioning are not just for the main structural framework we are talking about. It might be some other portion, like for example, I'm constructing the whole building in RCC frame structure, but just the entrance portal, I'm making it in load-bearing stone wall to give it a particular look, or the porch which I'm making it in steel. Okay, so all those components you have to find it. You have to find the material and calculate it accordingly. Even the railing, let's say railing. Now we are talking about steel and metal and everything, but we are not talking about the railing per se because it being a not being a structural member. But yeah, if the railing comes, then that will calculate as a metal. if a wooden railing or wooden balusters or something for the handrail or something will come, then that you will calculate in timber. I hope you get it. Okay, wherever the material comes, you have to keep your eye open in your own structure. If you haven't considered it, calculate it and keep that in your mind so that when it comes to the item or the material, you mention. Okay. So here comes steel. Okay, so steel में अभी क्या क्या हो सकता है? People might have the whole project made in steel, so they might have columns, girder or beams. They might have flooring. Some if they have industrial or warehouse building, they might have steel flooring or steel decks. Okay, they might have steel staircase. Okay, so now again, when we are writing specification, then what are the important points which we have to keep in mind? Again, the same process. How we are connecting this steel member. So that would be the first point. Is it bolted? Is it welded? Is it riveted? What are we using to connect all the steel? That we have to keep in mind. Then application, where we are applying it. Is it for the beam? Is it for the column? Is it for the staircase? Because the steel being the material, it is going to be same for everywhere. But how and where we apply it, that will change its costing or maybe construction time or labor work which is included. Okay. And then comes the processes. So after fixing this, there are a few processes. The steel is prone to corrosion. It is prone to fire compared to concrete and brick and stone. So some processes which we do over these members that will protect it. So all those things has to be mentioned when we specify for steel. Okay. So, Asha, and the thing you have to keep in mind is steel is very costly material. May it be steel or any metal. There are AC piping for, which are done in copper. There are GI construction, GI railing, staircase. So all aluminum ducting, AC ducts which we do, they are done in aluminum. So the quantity might be pretty less, but that's why we measure all the metal components in weight, in kg. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. So now when we are talking about the steel work, so we have to mention providing structural steel work. Structural steel work specifically I have mentioned because it will be used for structure. I mean, to create your framework. So your portal frames or some all those things will also come in this. Providing structural steel portal frame might be riveted or bolted or welded in built up sections. Now, built up sections means the ready-made sections which you get. Okay, there's I sections, H sections, C sections, all those things. Whatever it is, you have to mention it in built up I sections, or generally we also mention, I hope you know a steel table where we mention it ISMB, ISLB, and those terms. Indian standard mild steel section, whatever it is, we mention that particular. Okay, so that sections trusses, if we are using trusses, then trusses and framed work or portal frames, including cutting, hoisting, fixing in position, and applying a priming coat of approved steel primer, all complete. This is how we will mention it. It might have different sizes of columns. It might have different sizes of girders. All that you can mention it below this in uh, sub row or sub column, whatever you want to mention. So there you will write it, whatever size you are using, ISMB 200, 250, 300, whatever it is, you have to mention it. And then you will calculate the weight for it. Now, how to calculate weight for this steel? So sometimes for those ready-made sections, if you are using in steel table, you will directly find weight for it. That for 1 meter of this ISMB 200, weight would be 50 kg, 60 kg, 70 kg. Okay, you will find it directly. But if you don't have it, and if you are customizing the section or something, then we have formula. Basically, what you do is you calculate the volume for it. You have cross section size, so you will calculate volume for it and multiply it with its density. And you will get the weight. Okay. Otherwise, if you are using a standard section, that's better. You should use standard sections which are available. Of course, people who are using portal frames may not find it standard section. So, but so accordingly, you can find it in steel table and write the weight for it. Okay. Write the volume and then weight. Okay. Then another specification which might be used for regular tubular section if you are using, okay, hollow tube or hollow rectangle or hollow square. Generally, these are used for staircases or railing or something like that. Okay, for that these we use it. So providing steel work in built up section as tubular, whichever shape it is, for trusses or wherever it is, including cutting because according to the size, when the work is done on site for cutting and hoisting, how you are going to hang it, you will require cranes. Okay, if it's multi-story, 50-story, 100-story building, you will require cranes for days. You will require that kind of operators. So all that cost differs. So that also has to be mentioned here. Fixing in position and applying priming coat of approved steel primer. We always apply primer, वो तो है ही, but still sometimes we also apply a fireproof coat over it. But that is generally, again, it may or may not be calculated separately. Okay, so that we have to apply it. It might include welding, bolted with special shaped washer. If it's a critical structure, if that is a portal frame or something, there are different kind of washer means the when we are bolting or we are okay, then there it is used so that the bolt doesn't slip away. So special assembly sometimes is required, so that we have to mention, and accordingly we have to mention the weight. Okay, so is it clear regarding the steel? Even entrance gate or compound wall, something there also barbed wire fencing and everything, whatever we do, that is also calculated. That also we calculate in kg and in metal. Okay, this is not just for the steel. Even any metal work which you are going to do it on site, it will be calculated here. Okay, in kg. Okay, is it clear? So when you are going to calculate for steel reinforcement also, when you are calculating 5% of total volume, you will get a volume that you have to convert it into kg. Okay, is it clear? Should we move ahead?
Sorry, I had a doubt.
Yeah, sure.
When if we are encasing the steel column with concrete, so that calculation is done earlier or afterwards, or we neglect that?
No, we don't neglect that. If we are going to cover it completely, see, when we are covering an eye section, then the major chunk of portion in terms of volume, it is going to be of concrete.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, you have to calculate it, but that concrete might not be RCC, like the grade which we require for taking the compressive strength, or it may be, okay. If I'm just using it to encase the steel column, I might not use M20, I might use M15. So that should be there in a separate item in RCC or PCC itself. We also calculate PCC. I hope you remember. For PCC bed or PCC slab for the ground floor. Okay, we calculate a different item, PCC, just a plain cement concrete. We don't have reinforcement inside. Okay, when we are calculating this RCC also, we are technically just considering cement concrete. Reinforcement, we are considering it as a separate item. Okay, so it would be separate. You can reduce out of that square or circle, you can reduce the cross section of steel which you are encasing, and that would be your quantity. Okay. Yeah.
So we would mention it earlier only, but
Yeah, in our when we are talking about the concrete, there only you can mention it that this concrete is for RCC column beam, this concrete is for plastering work, this concrete is for encasing so and so. But if the grade is same, then the quantity will be summed up. If the grade of the concrete is same, that means you are using cement, sand, aggregate to the same amount. So the cost would be the same. Okay, so yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions regarding steel? Okay, if not, then we can go ahead to the last element or material, which is timber. Okay, now timber again, it might not be used for the structural member, but we do use it for frames or windows or again, I'm talking about timber and not engineered wood or plywood or any of those. Okay, this is just plain timber, which we get the wood, which we use structural wood we are talking about. Okay, so that which we use it for columns, for joists, for truss, for beam, for rafter, purlins. We may also use it for flooring or floor panels. Again, wood and not engineered wood. If it is engineered wood, then we have to mention it separately. This is for structural wood. Then there might be staircase or handrails or railing or any of these. As you can see, there are the whole building could be out of even window frames, door frames, all those things. If we are using timber, then we have to consider it here. So, acha, again, now when we are talking about timber, you have to keep in mind that timber we calculate it in volume. I haven't written it. I forgot to write it. Okay, this we calculate in volume. Whenever we talk about wood, whenever if you go in market to purchase wooden frames or wooden putty or wooden rafters or something, they will give you price based on volume. Kitna volume? Ghन foot में generally they, if you go into the market, they'll say itna ghन foot lakda hai, itna ghन foot चाहिए. Okay, that way they talk. So in volume they will talk about. Okay, so you also have to calculate these quantities in volume. So now when we talk about timber, what things we have to keep in mind? Same, these three principles you have to keep in mind in any material you are going to consider. Okay, first, what kind of timber you are going to use. Okay, and class of wood. What kind of, there is grading, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Okay, so types of wood generally which we use here in India commonly are salwood or gurjan. Gurjan generally is used for making plywoods. Okay, then there are teak woods, then there are deodar, Indian rosewood. Okay, and when we cut the trunk of this wood, there we make several uh, parts of that trunk, which are graded according to grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. Okay, so here generally the parts which are best, which can be used for structural member like column and beam and everything, they are graded as 1 or maybe 2. 3 is generally okay. It might have some defects. Okay, cut sizes might be too small or there might be nodes in it. So it is graded as grade 3. So grade 3 may not be used for structural members, but it can be used for railing. It can be used for non-structural members for I don't know. Okay, so that grade 3, grade 1 and 2 are generally used for column and mill. So whenever you are writing for specification for wooden structure, you have to write providing and fixing wooden uh, joist or column. Now don't write slashes, write proper words. If you are using it for wood, sorry, for beam, then write beam. If you are using it for rafters, then write rafters. Columns, to jo bhi hai, write it accordingly. Providing and fixing wooden beam in teak wood of grade 3, in third grade teak wood with appropriate wooden joinery. Now, if the joinery or something which you are using something customized, then you might have to use those specific words. If you are using steel plates and steel gusset plates or something, that also people use sometimes to make portal frames out of wood. So the steel joinery is also used. So if you're going to use that, then you have to mention that, how they are going to get connected, how they're going to get erected, and how they're going to connect. Okay, and then the treatment. We might provide treatment, sometimes fire proof coating treatment, sometimes moisture proof treatment. So whatever we do with appropriate treatment, that also we have to add and complete its specification. Okay. This is for timber. This is for structural wood, which we are talking about, and not plywood and everything. If we are going to use engineered wood for beams and all, then we have to specify it differently. If some of you have that, then we can specify particular, because that would be a unique. That is not a conventional or standard as of now type of construction. The joinery would be customized for that. The what we say. Fixtures might be different. Okay, so that we have to specify separately. All these specification, generic specification which you are talking about, the material properties of them are already mentioned. Okay, in DCR and everywhere, that it has fire rating of so and so time, or it has moisture resistance of so and so, may it be steel, concrete, brick, jo bhi hai. It has compressive strength of minimum so and so for all the different material. So it has been mentioned. So these are those conventional material which we generally use. And I'm sure one or the other will be there in your structure as well. So yeah, you have to keep that in mind. Is it clear for timber? Does anyone have any questions, any doubts regarding this, regarding their own project for Tech Studio? These are four basic material which will be there in your superstructure and which will cover your major chunk of superstructure. So you have to start describing this, calculating this as well, and calculating the proper amount, proper volume or weight or whatever it is correctly, because that every time when it comes to checking, generally we then recognize if some quantities are correct or not, because sometimes even a small decimal point will change the whole quantity for your BOQ. So and also the measurement sheet, whenever you guys write in your measurement sheet, keep it clean and clear. If you want to separate it out for first floor, second floor, वैसा करो. If you want to separate the sizes and write accordingly, then do that way. So whenever, because see, the changes might happen in your structure as you go ahead and discuss with your guides. Changes might happen. So अगर वो एक change होगा and you haven't clearly wrote in your measurement sheet, you have to find each and every quantity to check if it is correct, exactly which quantity it was and in which page it was. Okay, it's better you write your measurement sheets clearly, neatly. Okay, and just since we are talking about the superstructure, the last item I want to tell you about is wall plaster, which is very general, which there are other finishes also which we applied on walls, internals, externals. Okay, but still this is just, since we are covering this, I am telling you this is the last item. So this again, I hope you all know that providing and applying average 12 mm thickness. Whenever we apply plaster inside, we apply 12 mm because that is enough. But when we are applying it on the external side, it is 18 mm to protect against dust and water and rains and etc. Okay, due to it. So that's why 12 mm internal single coat plaster. There again can be, if we are applying 18 mm or 25 mm plaster, then we have to apply it in multiple coats. We can't in one shot. We generally can't apply such a thick plaster. People do it on site. We have to check whenever we visit site. We have to tell them to contractor ko kaam khatam karna hai. He'll do it haphazardly. So we have to observe it and keep that in mind. So providing applying 12 mm thick single coat plaster in cement, sand, mortar, so and so for all plain curved surface of brick or block or RCC walls or wherever it is, and finishing the same in correct line, level and plumb. नहीं तो अंदर का पूरा wall टेढ़ा मेढ़ा हो जाएगा. तो again the plastering, the leveling has to be done correctly. Making of edges, corners, seal, jams, soffit. I hope you all know all these terms which you might have done in first year. Pattas, etc. As per the drawing. Sometimes we have designs on the plaster or whatever it is. So we have also have to mention that they have to check the drawings and relevant specification, including all necessary surface preparation. We can't directly plaster over smooth RCC column. Okay, we have to hack it. We have to make those. You might have seen after construction, after curing on columns, they hack it with hammer. Okay, they make uneven surface so that the plaster gets fixed over it. Okay, that we have to include. And this is just one more part which I thought I should just inform you that near the joints or where there is a probability of cracks is there that might happen, that might occur. We generally provide PVC chicken mesh or okay, that again it's thin mesh web like I hope you all have seen bandage of cotton bandage. It's something like that only, over which we plaster it so that it doesn't leave cracks. It doesn't let the cracks occur after it's when it's curing. Okay. So just to mention it, I'm mentioning no need to include this in your view, but wall plaster, yeah. Okay. So yeah, this covers your major items of superstructure. Still, if someone thinks that they haven't understood or a particular item which they don't know how to calculate or something, if there is anything, you can ask me right now. Hello. Is it clear to everyone?
I had a doubt.
I think Shravan has a question.
Yeah, sure.
So, what specification do we write when, in case we're using a double skin facade of
Double
glass?
skin facade. Now, double skin, what material are you using?
Glass.
Glass. So glass is again another type of facade. So it won't. So for that, you will be calculating it as it is called curtain walling, right? Glazing, which you're going to use.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are going to use sandwich glass or something like that. What is it?
Yeah, I mean that only,
Okay.
but it won't be completely that. There will be steel members which will come in between, right? So
Yeah, it will be. It will. But see, the steel members, which if you're thinking of steel members which are supporting that glass, okay, that aluminum generally when you're applying curtain glazing, okay, then those are aluminum mullions and transoms which you use. Okay, so though the whole assembly with the glass, it will be considered in curtain glazing, okay, or curtain walling, and it will be calculated in square meters, the surface area which you will be looking at, like height and width. Okay, it will be
okay,
calculated in square meters, and that would be a different specification. And structural member, if it is supporting your slab and beam and everything, if that's the steel member you're talking about, then that will be considered as steel, what we just talked about. Okay.
okay, but in my case it's glazing only. So the steel members which will support the glass, they're only supporting the glass. They're not structural members as such. So the
So the
area
slabs and everything is getting supported by your columns and whatever it is
Yes.
coming, right?
Yeah,
So that would be considered in that glass assembly itself. So when we are writing specification for curtain glazing, we'll write providing and fixing curtain glazing of so and so particular glass. There are types of glass, UV resistant and this and that and all. So that we have to mention. There will be some insulating property. You must have, I mean, since you're using it, you should explore that material. They will also give you insulation, so something, capacity of that glass, radiation absorption capacity and everything. They will mention it. So basically, when you are writing, you can write providing and fixing curtain glazing of so and so thickness. जो भी glass का आता है, generally we 12 mm का sandwich glass or something, whatever it is, we have to mention it with appropriate aluminum supports or assembly. Okay, all that you will write and you'll mention it in square meters.
Okay, and that will be the area of just the facade only. I mean,
height and width. Yeah,
I
the
won't
facade जहाँ
calculate.
जहाँ यूज हो रहा है जितना यूजर है वही है. If you are saying कि अच्छा नहीं half तक मेरा parapet wall है brick का and then I'm using glass, then that brick wall has to be considered separately and glass का अलग से. Okay, so that way you have to keep in mind.
Okay, so I don't have to calculate area separate for the aluminium members and the glass. It's just
No need, no need, because see, generally when we are giving this work to someone or some, we are consulting facade consultants or someone who are specialized in doing this. So when we decide, when we are done with the design and everything, they come on site and they assemble it at one go. Okay, so they will give you the whole price for square meter. कि अच्छा इतना square meter का facade you have to construct. Then that this goes for everything. Some might use steel, jali. Okay, for them also, then the same way you have to calculate in square meters. Sometimes they use cotton steel facades. Sometimes they use. Okay, so those guys also need to calculate it in square meters. Same way by mentioning all the assembly and whatever it is in short in that BOQ sheet or abstract sheet, they have to mention it. Okay.
yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Anyone else?
Shravan has a question.
Oh
in
yeah,
chat.
I can see in chat. Okay. If I wanted some artisanal decorative wrought iron staircase, I just do the weight, right? Or will I require any specific labor for ornamental work? Yeah, the whole item of staircase would be different for you, Shravan. And if it is like, see, if it is too much customized or ornamental work, then we consider it as a job, as a separate job, because that's one thing which you are highlighting in your structure or something, right? So that you have to mention it separately, that this wrought iron and all this specification, you also attach drawings, which is not a generic work that the artisan would be able to do it quickly. Okay, if it's customized, then you have to write it separately. And then when we do rate analysis, generally when in practicality, when we do rate analysis, then we consider everything, the weight of it, the the material, some processes over it, or the raised baluster, whatever ornamental work you have mentioned, that we consider while deciding the cost of it. Okay. I hope I answer your questions, Rahul. Yeah.
Neeraj, I had another doubt. I have a structure, a part of structure which is suspended from the ceiling. So I'll be using steel wire to hang it. So will that be measured in square meter, cubic meter, or chest meter?
See, there are two things. First thing is that how you're suspending it, which you said that with cables and everything. And
Yeah.
second thing, what you're suspending. Is it acrylic sheets, or is it a concrete slab, or is it a
It is
false
the
ceiling?
it is a wire mesh, the steel mesh, the catwalk.
Steel mesh catwalks. Na? Huh. So that you will be calculating in kgs. So
kg.
for this kind of structure, what generally we do, we calculate it for the part of catwalk. See, catwalk is the cross sections are going to be same.
Yeah.
So we are not going to calculate कि पूरा 30 मीटर का लेंथ का वो L section है तो उतना यूज. I'll calculate it for 1 meter maybe.
Okay.
And then I'll tentatively calculate ऐसे मेरा 10.5 meter or 10.5 or 11 meters I have catwalk, then I'll multiply it with that 1 meter का weight and I'll get it directly. Same goes for the staircase. When you have multiple trades, okay, and you have one eye girder niche, so you won't be calculating each and every girder. You will multiply it. Okay, I have one step ka weight is this much, and I'll multiply it with 30 or 25 or however it is, and I'll get the volume. Okay, this now you have to be smart. You have to think, yes, you know, don't have to calculate each and every component. Okay, but this way you can minimize your work.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Anyone else?
I think everybody should take the opportunity and ask for items that in general we would not have covered. So if there are like appreciate the fact that Sahil is talking about, girders, catwalk, suspension. metal items, acoustical panels, carpet, all these kind of things, those will come though largely under finishing. What I'm talking about, acoustical and carpet comes under finishing, but at least at superstructure level, metal sheeting, purlins, girders, all these aspects, if you all have, then this is the right time to ask such queries, because superstructure will expect to have everything. Yeah. So should you have doubts, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, nearing 3 o'clock, we can then call it a day.
Because items can be hundreds and different items. Even I might know that I might not know. You might have searched some item on Google and you might have used it in your structure. It would be interesting to know it and write a specification about it. So whatever it is, you can ask me right now.
Neeraj, if I have architectural fins on the facade, so how will I write the specification for that?
Okay, so for those fins now, which material you're using for the fins? Are those glass fins? Are those wooden fins? Are those aluminum fins? That you have to check. Okay, and accordingly that you will consider, you have to write that specific item that I am going to providing and fixing, let's say aluminum lures or aluminum fins with automation or with manually movable or foldable or slidable, whatever it is. You have to dissect your item which you are going to use. Okay, and then that specification you can write, okay, I am using, let's say if I'm using lures on my facade, large aluminum lures. So I'll write, okay, providing and fixing 300 by 2 meter lures of aluminum, which are sliding lures or maybe foldable lures or automation, whatever it is, you have to mention that. And then you have to mention the square footage of that area. Specifically, I'm talking about the lures or fins or something which you are going to use. Okay. And you have to write square meter, because it might have aluminum channels. It is moving on aluminum channels, or it is moving on steel channels, or whatever it is. You have to mention that. So whenever, actually, when you find a particular item which you are going to use it, try to, just for your own sake, try to go through its properties as well. How it's actually working. We just don't want to show in elevation ki ye bas lure maine aise dikha diya vertical lines and that's it. Go through some websites, go through some examples ki acha, it is moving on channel. Don't just, I mean, of course elevation looks great, but how it's working, where they have channel, where they have hung those lures or fins. So try to look for that assembly and you will get your own specification. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome. Yeah, Bhavika.
That was Bhavika. I'm
Achha, that was
Aishwarya.
Bhavika. I thought it was you, Aishwarya. Okay, yeah, Aishwarya.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like, openable panels are there, right? Like, some wooden panels, like, they can shift, like, how would we specify for those? Like,
Openable panels, are you saying it for fenestration or are you saying it as a
yes,
partition in the room?
I mean, it as a fenestration, yeah.
As a fenestration, okay. So there you will write, see, if you have multiple of those partitions, then you will mention what framing does. If you are saying it's wooden, then this wood or this engineered wood, whatever it is that framing is done, how they are setting, size of one panel. Okay, what size of those panels are, like I have 1 meter by 3 meter come multiple panels which I move on the facade. It might be sliding partition or whatever it is. Okay, then that you will mention this kind of frame, jo bhi size of frame you will mention. Okay, providing and fixing sliding partition of so and so size with 75 by 30 frame, having so and so clear glass, 12 thick glass, 18 thick clear glass, toughened glass. okay, with manual assembly or automated assembly, जो भी है, okay, which might, if the glass has insulating properties, then you can mention that. If the glass has acoustical property, then you can mention that, and accordingly you will create your specification. Is it clear?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So that's panel size and then frame size, and then on what it is going to move, maybe tracks, जो भी है, okay,
So
that
the
assembly set.
framework and everything is also specified in this as
You
this
should,
folder.
yeah, you should. Whenever we give specification, we have to give it in detail. Even the smallest window or ventilator, if we give, we have to mention the frame size and all those things. Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay. Anyone else? Yeah. If I hope everyone was taking notes today. To start preparing BOQ for your superstructure, start mentioning the items. You might realize it later. अरे ये तो भूल गया, इसका भी specification लिखना पड़ेगा. And try to create it on your own. Just think about the process. Okay. Think about the material, how to apply it or fix it, and how to maintain it. It might be a treatment which you might do it on material, or maintain means basically if you have sliding window, then how the tracks are going to be and how the assembly is going to be. So based on these three things, you can create the specification of your own. Okay. So if that is it, then should we end the lecture?
Neeraj.
Yeah, Jim. Huh?
We can end for the day.
Yeah, we can end. Okay.
Yeah, I think everybody should gather and have a look at their schedule to gather that when is the next requirement for the computation of the superstructure items. I think last time most people did pretty well, and most people have got the hang of it. I think most people yet have a problem of applying the formula in the Excel sheets. So that is one area that needs. And if there are a couple of people who are um, applying the formula in the Excel, and some are yet doing it manually by way of calculator. So if that is the case, there can be a request where we can either show you how the Excel formula can be used. If not, so if that is the case, the CRs and the class can get to us. If not, YouTube channels or something can always help you to know how various formulas are to be applied.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I would like to know from the CRs that can we expect a presentation on the fenestrations tomorrow morning? Hello?
Yeah, hi Jimmy. So does it have to be just a slideshow kind of a thing where we swift pass all the photos, or how?
Someone has to talk about it. Yeah, that is true. It can be a slideshow, building wise, segregated building wise. Not all buildings, maybe a couple of, with maybe a couple of 5 or 6 buildings, the SEPT library, the SEPT main building, maybe IIM old, IIM new, AMA, a couple of good building, couple of a set of 8-10 buildings. If you have been able to, if you are able to, so to say, compile the photographs and have a good set, then you compile them in a certain order. So someone can sit and organize them well, and then a couple of you all can decide who are the people who are good at talking, and quickly run through them for the. This can be good for the, so to say, visual refresh of memory for all, one and all. Perhaps people like me, Ensley, who have been to Ahmedabad so many times, can then further comment and talk about the finer details. It will be a good exercise such that people now who are to make schedules know what is the quality of fenestrations that are expected. So can that happen, Sahil, by any chance?
I'll just.
Sahil, go on.
Aji.
Bolo
Tanvi.
We have a problem of getting all those photos because we don't. So we put that drive ka message a week ago, but I don't think everyone have a lot of photos. So we'll have to get it from the net only.
Whatever you have, if you don't have many photos, means how many? So many people did go and, or people didn't have many photographs, or people too lazy, like to ask questions in class. Like fourth year people said we are too lazy to ask, to on our mic and ask questions in class like that. I hope it is not about. So can we? So have you all even started with the presentation, or you all are even thinking of starting today?
I don't think we have put photos in that drive. There were 5-6 photos, but not more than that.
5-6 photos.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we'll ask everyone to put today whatever they have so that there's a good collection.
So then what? So you need to give some time limit today by, say today by 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, you ask people to put in. You hold a class meeting if you want. There are, from what it looks like, there are 76 people on board as of now. Half of them I don't know even if they are around. So I and Neeraj can log out. You can conduct a meeting and set some timeline. The CRs can set some timeline, can identify a couple of y'all. You can divide buildings differently. Share one PPT slide of how you want to organize it. We don't mind, that is there. One person can do IIM, one can do SEPT, one can do perhaps Tagore Hall, perhaps Corbusier's building. All Doshi's building. Like that, if you distribute 4 or 5 amongst you all, you can compile it late night or early tomorrow morning, late night morning. The presentation will be ready and each one who compile may be in a position to talk. Is that possible? Or should we consider no presentation tomorrow? You let me know by night. Yeah, Sahil, can you let me know by night?
Yes, okay. We just
After I and Neeraj can log out, you all can hold a meeting. You can ask each other who has some set of photographs. By what time can they put on the drive? Most people take things lightly. I also